Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchedoye olahadi samyao sanpatoshe. Wushang shen shen wei miao fa bai qian wan jue nan zao yu. Wo jin jian wen de shou chi. Yan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture today. My name is Heng Shi. We're about to look into the Flower Garland Sutra. It is Sunday, August 8th, here in southeastern Queensland, and it is Saturday, August 7th, back in Berkeley, California, where I sit to turn this Dharma wheel other parts of my life. So good to see you. Thank you for joining. We have a fairly brief piece of text tonight because we've been pursuing the 10 kings of mountains, and I have lots of stories to share about mountains, mountain kings or mountain princes or mountain people. We're right up against the very, very end of our chapter. We have just a few verses to go. So today's lecture will cover the end of the 10 Kings of Mountains, and then our speaker, the Bodhisattva Vajra Treasury, gives us another list of 10 things that the 10 stages represent, and then we're done. So I want to talk about later what my plans are for the interim between finishing the 10 stages chapter and starting our next piece of the Avatamsaka Sutra. So I'll let you know about that later. All right. And we're going to start, as we often do. We're going to come back to slide 49. We're going to start with our invocation. And the invocation is the title of the Flower Garland Sutra. And the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who were present and gave birth to it, brought it into our experience, into our consciousness. So. That's the way the tune goes. I'd like to invite you to join me if you care to. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huan Jun Huan Hai Hui Fo Hu Sa 方光佛华严海会佛菩萨，南无大方光佛华严海会佛菩萨，大方光佛华菩萨，南无大方光佛华严海会佛菩萨，南无大方华严海会佛菩萨，南无大Back down to the bottom of our text. Okay. There we are. Start with Qi Di Da Hui Ru Ni Min. Okay, that piece. I'll put a melody on to the Chinese text and invite you to give it back, call and response style, and we'll do the same to the English. Here we go. Qi di da hui ru ni min, qi di da hui ru ni min, ba di zi zai ru lun wei, ba di zi zai ru lun wei, jiu ru qi du qi wu ai, jiu ru qi du qi wu ai, 十如须弥具众德，十如须弥具众德. And English goes like this. The 7 stages, great wisdom is like Nemindhara. The 7 stages, great wisdom is like Nemindhara. The 8 stages, sovereignty is like encircling wheel. The 8 stages, sovereignty is like encircling wheel. The 9th resembles Ketumati, converging unobstructed wisdoms. The 9th resembles Ketumati, converging unobstructed wisdoms. The 10th is like Sumeru, replete with multitudes of virtues. The 10th is like Sumeru, replete with multitudes of virtues. All right, all you poets and wordsmiths, I challenge you to find a rhyme for converging unobstructed wisdoms. That's the poet's nightmare. So, good thing Father Cyprian gave us our chant tone, which allows us to fit any number of syllables into a line. Okay. To do this, we have to go, no, we'll go there next. We are finishing the 10 stages. This is the 10th stage. It's the second half, the last half of the 10 stages of stage number 10. So we're in the 10 stages chapter. We're on stage number 10, and we're in the verse portion of stage number 10. This is the end of the end. And our speaker is summarizing. So he's putting it all together. He's summing it all up. He's rounding it all off. He's giving us the tops of the waves. And he's been just, when he finished praising all the benefits that a bodhisattva, an awakened being who has finished his course of education, who is trained, fully accomplished, he suddenly tossed in 10 kings of mountains. And we've been visiting 10 kings of mountains. Now, what do we have? Let's look at the text first. The Chinese says, so we got 7, 8, 9, 10. Just that's how each verse begins, 7, 8, 9, 10. Seventh stage, big wisdom like Nimin. And Nimin, that's abbreviated Chinese for Nemindhara Mountain, which is a mountain in the Buddha's sacred geography. Okay. Ba, the eighth stage, Suzai, self-mastery, literally self-present. So we've been translating that as sovereign self-mastery. In other words, you're in charge. You're in charge of your mind. You're in charge of your digestion. You're in charge of your thoughts. Imagine, right? Your emotions, your metabolism. That's according to your wishes. And because the self that is the you is merged with the universe, you just go with the Tao. You and nature are one, no different. You are, as someone said, intimate with all things. That is to say, no difference, no space between you and the mind of the universe. Like what? Like Lun Wei, like the wheel encircling mountains. Okay, more Buddhist geography. Okay, Jiu, number 9, Jiu Di Ru Jidu Jiuhua. Like Jidu, which is another mountain, it is Ketumati, which gathers with no obstruction, which gathers everything with no issue, no worries, no problems. And then number 10, like Shumi, we've heard that one. Sumeru, like Sumeru, Meru sometimes, which gathers the many virtues. All right, so our verse is for sure, it's really concise. It's really pressed down, tight, crystallized. So we get 7, and then we get the name of a mountain. So 7 is Nemindhara, 8 is encircling wheel, didn't give us a Sanskrit name. 9 is like Ketumati, 10 is like Sumeru. That's the Chinese. All right, what are we doing? We're going to refer to a text that happily I found. Here we go, right there. That gave us a commentary on what these mountains represent in sacred Buddhist geography. Nemindhara, Nimin Tolo, Iwei Chibian, supporting the boundaries. So supporting all sides, holding up the edges is Nemindhara Mountain, Giriraja Mountain King. Sishan Yo Chunbao So Chung, it's made up of nothing but treasures. So could be made of opals, could be made of lapis lazuli, right? Could be made of pearls. Da Li Long Shen Jie Zhu Qi dragon spirits, or dragons and spirits. So Long, this word right here is a dragon. Shen is a spirit or a god. So dragon spirits or dragons and spirits who are hugely strong. Da Li, they are massively strong. All live here in Nemindhara. So that's where the dragons are. It's like the 7th stage Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva of the stage of traveling far, whose strength is with expedient wisdom's skills. So this Bodhisattva knows, Bodhisattvas on the 7th stage know how to teach us just right, the right time, just enough, the right, when to stop, and the way we can absorb it, the way we can take it in and make it ours, right? That's the Bodhisattva, and they are good at it. They're strong at it, like the dragons and the spirits who live on Nemindhara. They teach living beings, 实证圆觉果, and as they teach those beings realize the fruition of 圆觉, of conditioned, awakened. Bodhisattvas, they're called Pratyeka-buddhas. Buddhas who awaken according to conditions, or they awaken to conditioned processing. In other words, this, everybody up on your Buddhology, you got your terms and the ABCs of Buddhist awakening. So the tradition always says arhats, beings who put an end to birth and death, do so by means of what are called the four, either the four noble truths or the four ennobling truths. I found a new translation of the 四谛法. We always say the four noble truths, and someone said the four ennobling truths. It's not that the truths are noble, it's what they do to us when we make them ours. They make us noble. I like that. Four ennobling truths. But so arhats, four noble truths. Next level, they call it, say, Pratyeka-buddhas are the next highest level of awakening, also known as solitary awakened ones, or those awakened by conditions, or awakened to conditions. What does it mean? The means they use to wake up are called the 12 links of conditioned arising. So like the four ennobling truths awaken arhats, sound hearers, the Shravakas. If you continue to remove the darkness covering your nature, you can witness the 12 links of conditioned awakening, making everything appear and go away. Everything rises and falls, rises and falls. And you see that goes from ignorance all the way to suffering, or when you can end it, that's how you end ignorance, and suffering ends too. Finally, that's number 2. Okay, I told you this is a deep dive into Buddhist ABCs. Then the third level, there's a third level of awakened being, the Bodhisattva, who wakes up according to 5 points. Who raises their hand? Is this for Berkeley? We could point some. It's Bodhisattvas awakened to the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections. Okay, so that's what it says here. On the mountain called Asvakarna, number 6, Horse Ear Mountain, sound hearers, Shravakas, woke up. Okay, that was what the arhats woke up to. Now, Nemindhara, Yuanjue, Pratyeka-buddhas wake up. Okay, now, what was the next line? The next line was, the 8th stage's sovereignty is like encircling wheel. And here we have the Sanskrit for 8. It's Cakravada. People know the word chakra. That's kind of snuck into English vocabulary. People know what a chakra is. They locate them in the body, right? 7 wheels, they're called. And a chakra is a wheel. We talk about Chakravartins, wheel-turning sage kings who are awakened to a certain amount of wisdom, and they get the 7 jewels that come with Chakravartins. The 4 kings of heaven are Chakravartins, and they come with gold, silver, copper, and iron, I think, different wheels. So that's a word we've seen before. Jiuhua, and the meaning, Yiwei, Lunwei, mountains that circle. 此山有春宝所成. It's also made up of jewels, pure jewels. 金刚轮所为, and Vajra wheels surround this mountain. 有周, let's see, 诸自在贤皆住其中. Who lives here? These are rishis. These are immortals who live on the mountain called Cakravada Mountain. 比喻不动地菩萨是无功用道. They correspond to, this is an analogy for the Bodhisattva on the stage of immovability, no longer moving, unshakable, the unshakable stage, the unmoving stage, the firm and unshakable. What is it with this Bodhisattva is his ability to use Wu Gong Yong Dao, the path of no further effort required. Okay? People recall, if you've been with our series, you remember, that was a real huge, huge turning point. When the Bodhisattva gets to the place called irreversibility, Abibazhi in Chinese, Butui Zhandi, it's the place where he realizes the third level of patience. And that third level of patience is called Wu Sheng Fa Ren, patience when dharmas no longer arise. This is a level of accomplishment that marks a state. Master Hua would say, if you look at the entire career of a bodhisattva, one important stage is when you fa da puti xin, when you make the great resolve to wake up. That sets you on the bodhisattva path. And you proceed, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And between the seventh and the eighth, you get to the second major significant milestone. And that's this stage of irreversibility. And what happens if you pass, and it's a crossroads. They say there's not for sure that you're going to make it at that point and proceed. But suppose you do, what happens is you accomplish the teaching of beings without effort. You don't move your mind. You don't think it over. You respond because your nature is now sensitized, you've activated from your own nature the software, the programs, the apps, the APPs that allow you to teach living beings without conscious effort, right? So that's the Wu Gong Yong Dao. It's a major, incredible quality that is inherent in your nature and my nature, just waiting for us to boot it up and to make it work. It's a beautiful part of the 10 stages. It's unforgettable because the Buddhas come and exhort the Bodhisattva to keep going, don't stop here, don't stop. It's going to seem crazy. Everything goes upside down. Keep going, take one more step. Just breathe in, breathe out, rising, falling as always, and you're there. De xin zizai, you get to this place of total sovereign self-mastery with the mind, hua zhu pusa zhong. And at that point, you can teach all the other bodhisattvas. Okay, so I don't know, man, people who say, oh, the Avatamsaka Sutra, it's all philosophy. It's just so obscure, nobody can understand it. It's full of Sanskrit, don't bother. That attitude is out there. That is not my experience of this text. This is heart-stoppingly exciting and inspiring, and to think that people have the potential in human nature, right? We have this buried potential to express qualities that no fiction that I've read touches. The moving potential of humanity at its best. So number 9 coming up. No more to go here. 2 more. The 9th resembles Ketumati, which converges unobstructed wisdoms. Right? What does it say? Ji du wei di, ji du mo di, ji du mo di shan wang. Ketumati. Ji du mo di, yi wei chuang hui. Banner wisdom. The name Ketumati means wisdom like a banner, like a flag, right? It's also made of nothing but jewels, essential treasures. 大威德之阿修罗王皆住在其中。Ashura kings who have real virtue live here. And that's interesting because Asuras, by and large, get bad press, get bad PR through the sutra. And what they lack is blessings, but they've got strength and they have some wisdom. But here, Asuras have awesome, awe-inspiring virtue, and they live on the mountain called Ketumati. 比喻善慧地菩萨，执善巧摄众生。I'm sorry, let's see here. 善巧摄众生. There's a tongue twister. 善巧摄众生. Similar to the Bodhisattva on the stage of wholesome wisdom, who uses clever, skillful means to gather in beings, to bring us back home. 大力制衡. And has the and uses the practices of hugely, massively strong wisdom. His practices of wisdom are really powerful. This Bodhisattva, meaning it's not small potatoes. When this Bodhisattva on the ninth stage gathers us back in, it's super effective, right? Interesting to my mind that the Asuras are higher than the Bodhisattvas here in terms of which mountain they're on. Every mountain has a different assembly. Ketumati number 9 has Asuras. Cakravada number 8 has immortals. Nemindhara number 7 has dragons and spirits, or dragon spirits. Let's see here. Yeah, so that's where that was the, let's see here. Number 6, it doesn't say who lives on number 6, doesn't say. Yi, Sheng, Chan, Ichi, Zhuguo, Pi, 这是在区别的妙用。第6呢，没有了，没说哈。Doesn't say who's on on Asvakarna. Maybe it's uninhabited. Number 5, Yugandhara has Yaksha kings. And yeah, so the mountains, each mountain has its own character, has its own qualities. Fascinating. Man, this is good stuff. Indeed, when you get to Buddhism, you realize if you're really, if I started out as a Zen practitioner, I was very interested in understanding a lot about the Soto school in Japan, spent a lot of time meditating and pursuing and studying, reading, meditating, sitting, practicing. And it had its fulfillment, it was definitely a path. And now in starting with the West, we've had mindfulness arise, where one aspect of Buddhist traditions has been adopted by big groups of Americans in particular. That's where as I first watched it grow. Now it's worldwide. It's not Americans. It's in Australia. It's in Italy. It's in France. It's in Japan. It's in China. Mindfulness. Largely propagated by the 10-day Goenka-ji, the layman Goenka and his wife, who taught the 10-day meditation retreats that have now spread worldwide. They're so popular, people line up to sign up. Sometimes they have to take names. They have to draw lots to see if you can get a spot, to sit for 10 days in silence, eating vegetarian food, not talking. not socializing, no cell phone, and have that experience. And that's real encounters with Buddhist-based practices of meditation. That's one. The other, alongside the Goenka mindfulness, were the practice of mindfulness introduced by Joseph Goldstein and Jack Kornfield through the insight meditation in Barre, Mass. And Spirit Rock, California, Barre, Massachusetts and Spirit Rock, California, two places where another form of mindfulness, vipassana, was taught. So I was doing Zen, now we have mindfulness vipassana. But when we go deeper, of the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are meeting their own minds in the using a methodology introduced from Buddhism, of those thousands and thousands, there is a handful of people who go, boy, that was just something moved in my heart. I have to know more. I have to find out more. Where can I learn more about this exploration, this journey into the self that I've discovered, and these practices? And those are the people who get to the Dharma, of which meditation is one practice among what are called 84,000 practices. And then you can discover the 2,500-year-old tradition of Dharma teachings, one of which, interestingly, is Buddhist geography. And by golly, once you touch this, you realize this has got roots, even though it's invisible. That's the funny part. Where is Mount Sumeru? Where is Mount Ketumati? Where is Mount Cakravada? Where is Jambudvipa, the southern continent where humanity lives? Where do the devas live? How come there are 6 levels of desire heavens? And what is the flower treasury world system, right? What is the Dharma realm? So all these questions arise, and sutras go, I'll tell you, I'm glad you asked. Here it is. And it lays it out just as if it were happening, as Sherpa would say, on an apple in the palm of your hand, just as if it were this teacup. Right? So we can't see it. And yet the sutras tell us it's completely here. This is scholarship. This is deep knowledge traditionally passed on that is now here in English for us to decide how we're going to relate to it. Right? Do you care about this old stuff? Yeah, it's really amazing. Where are the dragons? Where do the dragon spirits live? Right there on Cakravada Mountain. Right? No, that's the immortals. The dragon spirits are on Nemindhara. So there they are. Yeah. And I have to do what all of you do, is decide that I can set belief aside. Do you believe it? What does belief mean? Belief means essentially, I think this story is true. It corresponds to things that make me light up. I will affirm it is true. I verify this story. Makes no difference to the story itself, whether or not I believe it. This body of teaching has been in the world, passed on through language bases, from Sanskrit to Chinese to Korean to Japanese to Vietnamese to Tibetan to Nepali, to the Silk Root languages, now onto English. And okay, you have to decide, I have to decide how much of it we're going to pick up or investigate. And so what I find useful here is not to tie my brain in knots to say, it has to be true. I'll struggle till I see it. Instead, do what's called suspend judgment. Just put aside the part of the mind that needs to sign on to the story, that needs to verify, that wants to identify with this knowledge. Just say, wow, smarter people than me, smarter, wiser people than I am, have worked with this knowledge and gained benefit from holding it as if it were true in their consciousness, so that then they can approach another orientation beyond the limits of my own vision. So say it simpler. If I didn't see it, does it exist? And how do you know if something exists if you didn't see it? So those of you for whom this is all new, you heard it from me. You heard it from the monk, right? Am I an expert? I'm, if anything, a lens, so that through my lensness, through my being a piece of clear glass, you can shine light on these old texts. And my ability to do this comes entirely from my exposure to Master Xuanhua from Shifu, who held this up and said, this is important. You really need to look at this. The Avatamsaka Sutra is a priceless jewel that you can pick up. And if you do, make your life better, right? So, okay, good. So here we go. I'm on a rant here, but just to say, how do we approach this sacred Buddhist geography? That's the question. There's dictionaries, encyclopedias, books that collect this knowledge and just put it, in a systematic form with an index so you can dig it up. I did that. Luckily, the internet allows me to search Chinese encyclopedias, English encyclopedias, of which there are more and more as people look more skillfully with different language tools into what the ancients said. Okay? All right. One more to go, one more. And it says, the 10th is like Sumeru, replete with multitudes of virtues. We get to Mount Sumeru, our old friend. Now, the first mountain that we found was what? Himalaya. The Himalayas, yeah. In your 3rd grade world geography class, Xueshan, Himalaya, snowy mountains. Now you know what Himalaya means. The last one is familiar to anybody who has gone deeper. Like I said, you go from Zen into Buddhist studies, and you go from Vipassana into Buddhist studies, and you discover, Mount Sumeru pops up a lot. Sometimes it's called Sineru in Pali. It's Meru, it's Mount Meru, it's Sumeru, Mount Sumeru, Xumi Shan in Chinese. Xumi Shan here is the one they use. So Mount Sumeru, the translation is Miao Gao, wonderfully tall, marvelously tall. It's a really tall mountain. Sishan Yo Chunbao Chang is purely made up of precious things, precious jewels. Da Wei De Tian Jie Zhu Qi Zhong, devas who have awesome virtue, awe-inspiring virtue, just like the Asuras, live here. Bi Yu Fa Yun Di Zhi Pusa, like the deva like the Bodhisattva of the 10th stage, the Dharma cloud stage. Qu Zu Rulai Zhili, who is replete, who has the fullness of the Tathagata's strength. Chengjiu Wu Wei, who accomplishes courage here, fearlessness. Yi Bu Gong Fa Wei Zhong Xuan Shuo, uses the special Buddha dharmas to teach the Dharma to the multitudes. Wen Da Wu Jin, and you can have a repartee with this, with these bodhisattvas endlessly. The bodhisattvas here can answer your questions till you're done asking, right? They know exactly how to answer your questions. So how cool is that? This is Mount Sumeru. Mount Sumeru pops up all the time in the teachings when, in the Avatamsaka, whenever they talk about Lord Chakra Devanam Indra, known as Chakra, who, also known as Indra, who is God on high, right? This is, they say that if there is in the Buddhist pantheon anybody who approaches the God of the Abrahamic faiths, it would be Chakra. That's him. He's on the second level of the desire realm heavens, which is the top of Mount Sumeru. That's where his heaven is. And the Avatamsaka talks about his palace, talks about his teachings, talks about the drum of heaven that is there, talks about warfare. When the Asuras, who are on Ketumati, want to fight their way up to the top and take over the top of Mount Sumeru, it talks about how Chakra defeats them using his psychic powers. Amazing stuff. This all happens on Mount Sumeru. Furthermore, halfway down Mount Sumeru, there's another level of devas, which are the 4 kings of heaven. And they're one on each side, and they have different jobs. They're the closest to humanity. People, we live in one of the continents at the foot of Mount Sumeru to the south. They say, Buddhist geography. Okay? So there we are. Yo, we've made it to our text. We made it through our 10 kings of mountains. And my goodness, there's a veil, there's a curtain between my senses, my eyes, my ears, my mind, and the experiencing the reality of these phenomena. There's a gap there. And how do you bridge the gap? Well, one way is you take the Buddha's words for truth. You just say, Buddha said, right? You affirm the story the Buddha tells us in the sutras and in the ancestral lineage. You say, I verify it's true. It's good for me. Good enough, right? That's my story too. That's one. Another way you do it is you go to the line of men and women, numbering in the millions, who for 2,500 years have followed the Buddha's instructions and done what he did. And they, in their own experiences, say, yes, we saw it too. And they leave a record, they leave a paper trail. So if you don't want to, take it on faith to cross the gap between my experience and what the Buddha is saying, if you don't want to just, without any other proof, affirm that what the Buddha said is true, go to other scientists who are experimenting in the laboratory of their mind and their body, who did what the Buddha did and said, yes, we saw it too. And you can take it from them. We at Dharma Realm Buddhist Association, Gold Mountain Monastery, heard it from Master Hsuan, who was an unimpeachable witness, to my mind. You just felt this man has nothing to gain by what? To the extreme, lying to us, or not so extreme, he has nothing to gain by misleading us, right? Hoodwinking us. It's not false information, misinformation. It's certainly beyond my experience. And the other thing is, it rings true. Some things, when I see a commercial message, for example, how about when the phone rings and the voice says, "We are looking into your car's insurance policy." And it's a mechanical voice, and it's like, hey, you know what? I don't have a car. Click, what is it? Phone spam, right? It's somebody trying to sell you something, a phone spam call on the telephone. More and more common, many people. When that voice tries to influence me to part with my money, I know it right away, and I don't want to follow that. So nothing corresponds except irritation, perhaps, depending on how much samadhi I have. When a wise and compassionate teacher voluntarily uses his life, time, and effort to do what the Buddha did, to follow the Buddha, and then talks about it, the things that person says, when they reach my mind, I go, something responds. I pay attention. I give it more credence, give it more weight, right? So, and then bit by bit, you come to trust, all right? So through that way, you cross over that gap between my experience and what the Buddha is describing. We bridge that gap. Another way it happens is things like dreams, right? And dreams, we're funny. People are funny. Sometimes we credit dreams more than we credit people's words, even though the dreams have less proof, less tangible, nothing to grab in the dream. So one of those teachers, one of those sources who command respect near and far was a monk called Xuanzang. Xuanzang, the great master Xuanzang Dashi, he, from the early days of the Tang dynasty, back in the 600s, he decided that he needed to go to India because the words of the Buddha that were available to him were partial, incomplete, and in some cases inaccurate, and he knew that. So he made a resolve that he was going to go to India and bring the sutras, better copies, back. Many obstacles, including the fact that the Tang dynasty was new and the first emperor of the Tang shut the borders of the country, kind of like now, because of pandemics, countries are shut their borders to international travel. Well, that was one of his problems. He also couldn't get companions to go with him that he trusted. All these issues. And he had to decide, Master Xuanzang, whether or not he was really going to risk it. There were others, many other monks who had tried it and had never come back. They left their bones on the Gobi Desert or in the Himalaya mountains. So he was upset because he didn't know where to turn, whether he wanted to do it, made the vow, but there were so many obstacles in the way. And he had a dream. And in the dream, he saw water in front of him, like a kind of a pond, but big, like an ocean. But in the center was a mountain. And this mountain came out of the water, and it was incredibly tall. And it shone with light. And in his dream, he took one step on the water, and he didn't fall in. A lotus flower met his foot. He took a second step, and a lotus blossom met his second foot, and his third foot, fourth foot, and he walked on the lotuses to the bottom of the mountain, and then a wind carried him in a single bound up to the top of the mountain. And from the top of the mountain, he could see all the way to India and the light was shining, and he woke up, and he had this incredible feeling that this was a sign. This was an omen that his trip to India would be successful. And he told his brother, who was already a monk, about the dream. And his brother said, well, that's Mount Sumeru, right? You made it to the top of Mount Sumeru in your dream. So dreams are another way that we actually can bridge that gap between what my consciousness teaches me through experience and the incredible geography spoken by the Buddha, told by the Buddha. So everybody for themselves, each of us has to decide to what extent are we going to offer our trust in the Buddha and in the words and experiences of the men and women who've gone before us, who are telling us that this is dependable, this is trustworthy, this is reliable, this is accurate. It's all there waiting, and it's only because we are clouded, limited by our consciousness, by our skandhas, that we don't see it ourselves, right? So I, encourage everybody to use your best skeptical, wholesome skepticism, use your best questioning, doubting mind. Don't take anything on faith simply because someone says so. Look into it yourself. And when you have that in your heart, keep looking. Meanwhile, we can suspend our judgment. Just simply say, I don't have to say true or false to learn more. I can learn and learn and learn and wait until my wisdom grows and my ignorance decreases to say this is true or this is false, right? Now, if something's false, as much as a scam phone call trying to get you to buy something, or telling you that your insurance policy is going to expire and trying to scare you into action, that's false. Yeah, it doesn't mean don't know what's false, but you don't have to affirm it's true until you learn more, right? That way, wow, at a certain point, when your own wisdom eyes open, when my own wisdom eyes open, I will have this body of knowledge there that I can affirm in a single glance. Ah, indeed, it's just the way the Buddha described it, right? So that's an attitude that I take towards this knowledge in the sutras, that is, it's out there. It is far out indeed, but it's magnificent. The other thing, another wonderful standard you can use to judge is how much harm is there? Is it harmful or harmless knowledge? And if it is harmless knowledge, no harm. It'll do you no harm. We absorb so much stuff during the day that is commercially based, it's for someone's profit, or it's actually harmful, that it's a blessing to find something that is truly harmless and truly ennobling, just like those noble truths. They're the four ennobling truths. I feel better when I learn about my potential to imitate the Bodhisattvas. It's just, it gives me light in the dark, and it makes me want to try harder, stand up taller, wash my face cleaner, to wash my heart cleaner, to follow this wisdom, because it is profoundly wonderful. Alrighty, I'm going to have to step aside briefly, and I'll let you all look at the the Buddha here, and I will be right back. Give me a break. If this were, we would turn the music on at this point, if this were a podcast, all right? I'll be right back. Don't go away. Okay, we're back. Did you miss me? Somebody says, were you gone? Oh. How can we miss you if you won't go away? One more quatrain, one more set of verses here. Right there. Okay, ready? 处地人受而持戒，处地人受而持戒，三谛功德四专一，三谛功德四专一，无持微妙六神神。无地微妙六神神，七光大会八庄严，七光大会八庄严。Here we go. The first stage emphasizes vows, the second holding precepts. First stage emphasizes vows, the second holding precepts. The third stage, merit and virtue. The fourth, concentration. The third stage, merit and virtue. The fourth, concentration. The fifth stage, subtle wonders. The sixth, profundity. The fifth stage, subtle wonders. The sixth, profundity. The seventh, vast great wisdom. The eighth, adornments. The seventh, vast great wisdom. The eighth, adornments. All right, so here we go. Notice, true is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It gives us 8 names of stages, and each one linked to an inner quality, to something invisible. Each stage points to the mind. So 1 is vows, 2 is precepts, 3 is merit and virtue, 4th is concentration, 5th is subtle wonders, 6th is depth, 7th is wisdom, and the 8th is adornments. And as I was preparing this today, I was thinking, who in the world would imagine that, no, let's see, I started that sentence wrong. Let me try it again. How unexpected, let's say, how unexpected that when we're talking about the peak of the Mahayana school of Buddhism, that is to say the Bodhisattva, what we're talking about is goodness of the heart. When I shifted from Zen to the Chinese Mahayana, the word I wanted was enlightenment, enlightenment, Captain Enlightenment. I wanted to get enlightened so bad. Our mentor, Houston Smith, said he was whoring after enlightenment himself when he studied Zen. Just anything, he would do anything to get, didn't matter, he could sell his soul to get enlightened, right? That was what we knew. That was the first books about Japanese Zen talked about Satori, Kensho, Moktaku, moksha, liberation. And okay, that's what we knew. So when I got to Gold Mountain Monastery, here's Master Hua saying, what's really important is to become the best possible person. Because why? When you can become the best person, your best person, there is no other Buddhahood than that. So get to work on your bad habits and your faults. Oh no. So we're learning about greed, we're learning about anger, we're learning about delusion, we're learning about pride, we're learning about doubtful mind, we're learning about arrogance, we're learning about stinginess, duplicity, the 10 goods and the 10 evils. And it's like, it's talking about character, talking about personality, talking about virtue. And it's like, I had no idea that when I came to Buddhism, I wouldn't be hearing about enlightenment. I would be hearing about character, vows, a promise you make in your heart, precepts, the behavior that is disciplining certain behaviors and emphasizing other ones to avoid harming people. Merit and virtue, the qualities of your nature that shine. Concentration, the ability to focus. Subtle wonders, things in the mind that have been there all along, but shadows cover them, right? Profundity, something that just goes on, and then there's a level below, there's a level below that, and there's something holding that up, and there's something beyond that, right? And then vast, great wonders. This is scope. Once that foundation is solidly there, it just opens and opens and opens and opens. And then adornments, the ability to make it brighter and brighter, right? So how cool is that? We'll do one more quatrain. Here we go. 九地思量微妙义，九地思量微妙义，出过一切世间道，出过一切世间道，十地受持诸佛法，十地受持诸佛法。 如是恒海无尽界，如是恒海无尽界. The ninth stage reflects subtle, wondrous meanings. The ninth stage reflects subtle, wondrous meanings, transcending by far the ways of the world, transcending by far the ways of the world. The 10th stage sustains the Buddha's dharmas. The 10th stage sustains the Buddha's dharmas. The oceans of such practices could never run dry. The oceans of such practices could never run dry. This one gives 2 lines to only 2. We got 8. The first 4 lines dealt with 8 stages. The last 4 lines deal with 2 stages. The 9th stage reflects subtle, wondrous meanings, transcending by far the ways of the world. That was where we met Dharani. Remember, we spent time on the 9th stage, and Dharani, the Bodhisattva's ability to make sounds correspond to being's thoughts. And it was 2 ways. Being's thoughts can respond in a sound. So incredible, subtle, wondrous meanings. It's like, what would it be like? You ever take a raindrop, and if it's on a window and the rain is dripping down, or it lands on a windowsill and then the sun comes out before the rain evaporates, and you look really close into the raindrop and there's a spectrum. Inside that tiny drop of rain are all the colors of the rainbow, right? They were always there, but you didn't have the conditions to see them. Subtle, wondrous, something, the universe contained in a raindrop, right? Transcending by far the ways of the world, which are pretty generally coarse and forceful. The 10th stage, when we get there, Uyi, sustains the Buddha's dharmas. The 10th stage sustains the Buddha's dharmas. All. It's called the cloud of Dharma, Fa Yun Di. The oceans of such practices could never run dry. That was the feeling that I got as we investigated the 10th stage, was from the 8th, where Wu Gong Yong Heng, effortless practice, kicked in. To say it's automatic pilot, that is kind of like a Tesla without a driver. It's way more than that. It's because it's much more like a cycle of moisture rising from the ocean to become a cloud, and then raining down, and it becomes fog and mist, and it hits the stream and flows down to the river, which goes back to the ocean. It's that kind of physics-based elemental transformation that doesn't stop. That's the 10th stage. The Dharma and the mind, the Tao and the nature are one, and there's no end to that. It's how things are. So, okay, we have 2 more verses before we're done. And I wanted to finish up talking about mountains. I was watching a video on mountains, and they were talking about Mount Everest. And Mount Everest was detected by, I think, an Oxford or Cambridge researcher looking into heights of mountains. And it was, oh, that's the tallest one. Okay, Mount Everest, that's nice. The Tibetans call it the Mother Mountain. It's not the sacred mountain. Nobody talks about Everest as sacred. The mountains that the Tibetans talk about is Kailash. Mount Kailash is sacred mountain. If you walk around it, it's 30 miles, more or less. People don't climb it, you walk around it, you circumambulate it, and it's symbolic of enlightenment, climbing to the 10th stage and then on to wonderful enlightenment, equal enlightenment, wonderful enlightenment, to Buddhahood. And I first heard about it, first came onto my radar when Ajahn Sumedho, our elder in the Western Sangha, did the pilgrimage, walked around, and experienced a near-death experience, and lived to tell about it, you know. And there are people in the Tibetan tradition who bow one step, one bow. They do full body prostrations all the way around, takes weeks and weeks. Others do 3 steps, 1 bow around. So that's Mount Kailash, one of the sacred mountains of the world. And because we've now looked at the Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva's description of the 10 mountain kings, I looked into my experience with mountains as a monk and realized how many mountains I've walked on, over, around since leaving home. And my own experience, last week I talked about growing up in Ohio, in the great alluvial plain where the glaciers made the land flat and created the Great Lakes in the eastern center of the United States. When I left the Midwest and came out to California, I had the opportunity to spend a summer in Colorado. And I was completely taken with the romance of the Colorado Rockies. And of course, John Denver's songs come on the radar right away. Rocky Mountain High is one of his songs. Guess he'd be a poorer man if he never saw an eagle fly. Guess he'd be a poor man if he never saw an eagle fly. Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. So I encountered the things that happen to the human spirit in the face of tall mountains. What is a mountain? It's just a piece of the earth that projects up, but it takes us closer to heaven, closer to the sky, a place of nature that is more pure, that you can see the clouds below you, you know, all those experiences. And it came back to me, my experience as a college student in Vermont, going to school, going to Middlebury College in the summers, spending summers in the Middlebury in the Green Mountains, and then able to spend a summer in the Colorado Rockies. And mountains indeed are special in my own experience. The Rockies are very different than the Appalachians and the Green and the White Mountains and the Laurentian Shield up in Ontario and Quebec. They're younger mountains. They're more raw. They're not green and soft and rubbed over as the Green Mountains are. But there's a quality about the Rockies. I've had world travelers from Europe who have grown up in the Urals and the Alps say that there's something very, very special about the Rockies, not just in Colorado, but where they go on up through Montana into Alberta, up in Banff, in British Columbia and Alberta. The mountain, those are the Rockies in the Canadian version. They're just breathtaking. And in my summer in Aspen, I had the opportunity to meet a man named Stuart Mace. And Stuart Mace and his family had a place called Toklat, T-O-K-L-A-T. Toklat was one of the places in the continental United States that kept sled dogs alive. And the thing about Aspen is I was there in the summer, but Aspen comes alive, Aspen and Vail and Snowmass, these towns in the Rockies, they come alive in the winter. So you see them with snow. I was there in the summer, and of course, sled dogs don't travel in the summer. They travel on the snow in the winter. Dog teams, and Stuart Mace had dog teams, and we got to meet the dogs on the off season there with the green grass and Rocky Mountains, and I met the intelligent sled dogs. Oh my gosh, huskies, one brown eye, one blue eye. And the lead dog, Lika, was the name of the lead dog. And this is a dog that, clearly was a PhD among dogs, just able to understand language and had a totally symbiotic relationship with Stuart Mace and the young men who were trained as the sled drivers, the mushers, running the sled teams. And I got to be friends with two of these young men, and they invited me on a weekend to go up to Castle Mountain, take a walk up Castle Mountain. And I'd never been up Castle Mountain outside of Snowmass. And Castle Mountain was 14,000 feet. And I think for reference, I think Everest is 25,000, but 14,000 feet is a substantial, I don't know how far that is in Haiba Dosha, 1,400, right? So 14,000 feet. And the Appalachians, the tallest mountain in the Appalachians is Mount Washington. That's 7,000. So, or correct me, 7,000 or 10,000? 7. So the standard height in the Appalachians around Middlebury College is about 6,000. So this was twice as tall as I'd ever been on my own 2 feet. And these two guys, it was Mike and Tim. And Mike, they were mountain men. They did this for fun pretty much every weekend. And I was the tenderfoot from Berkeley, California, which has got what, elevation 23 feet. Okay. So they said, come on up. And we drove up part of the way and got out and started hiking. And I had hiking boots, but I was not prepared for the difference between the Aspen Valley floor and 14,000 feet. And oh my goodness, they said, come on up. Come on, we'll get to, there's the peak. We'll get there, come follow us. And they were walking on ridges with, about this much toe space and holding on with their fingers. I said, I don't think I want to risk that. So I took the scree, people know scree, the loose boulders. I took the scree way up, which was way slower, but I wasn't going to fall off this way. And yet the thing about scree is it's loose. You take 2 steps up and 1 step back, 2 steps up, 1 step back. It's really slow going. And they had reached the top and the peak, and they were waiting for me, and they're looking down and laughing at me and encouraging me, but clearly, they're like, well, okay, we got to wait for him. So I ran out of strength, and I still had, 800 feet to go to the top. And it came to me. I thought, what do I do? I thought, where do I get strength? I recited my father's name. I'd never heard of a Buddhist mantra. I didn't have anything. I was a meditator, but I didn't have any Buddhist knowledge at all. So I used my father's name and said, oh, that's where my strength comes. I got to dig deep and come up with something. So I recited my father's name, and maybe looking for a mantra, knowing that in my future I had more mantras to learn, maybe. But I recited my father's name, and it was enough. And I got up to the top and had the same kind of experience that I had in the Appalachians, which is when you're standing on the top of the mountain and you have the little geodesic plaque up there that the government sets, tells you the altitude, and you're here, and this is the name of the mountain. Sometimes if it's a famous mountain, there's a guest book and you can sign your name. But on top of Castle Peak in the Rockies, it's very disorienting because there's nothing above you. You're the tallest thing. The clouds are often below, and the birds are flying way down below. And then you can see the habitation where humans live. It's tiny, just like something on a train set or something that children play with like dolls, a dollhouse size. Houses, highways, cars are just little insects buzzing along. Way, way, way down below. You can see small planes flying below you in the valley. And what you do is you look at your feet. Oh, I need something secure, because everything else is like empty space. And that was my first experience of the thrill of a mountaintop, right? And what it did to me was it made me humbler, because I realized how much I didn't matter to the bigger picture of the planet. And I had just changed my elevation. I was just looking from a higher perspective. But the effect of a mountain on the human psyche is so profound. And that was the awareness. And I thought later on, I remembered this wonderful poem that everybody likes from the Tang. 松下问童子，言师采药去，只在此山中，云深不知处。 Tang Dynasty monk named Jia Dao wrote this poem called 顺隐者不遇, looking without success for a mountain hermit. Beneath the pines, I met a youth who told me, Shifu's gone plant hunting. He's somewhere in the clouds. He's somewhere in the mountains, but the clouds are dense and he'll be hard to find. That's my translation. Translators of Chinese poetry are a funny bunch, and I'll just translate without comment, right? Just let it be. Under pines, I ask the boy. He says, my master's gone to gather herbs. I only know he's on this mountain, but the clouds are too deep to know where. Okay, that's all right. Yeah, good translation. Alan Watts, who was responsible for introducing Zen to lots and lots of people, including myself, wrote named an entire book after those last two lines. He called it Cloud Hidden, Whereabouts Unknown. That's the name of an Alan Watts book, which is a translation of Yun Shen Bu Zhi Chu. I translated it as the clouds are dense and he'll be hard to find. Now it's talking about a mountaintop, not a mountaintop. It's talking about the valley of the mountain, but it's an analogy for the mind, The clouds are too deep to know where he is on this mountain. Alan Watts called it cloud hidden, whereabouts unknown, which is a third translation of that same line. So how interesting, right? It's what mountains do to people. Last week I talked about Zhongnan Shan, my experience at Zhongnan Shan. And here's a poem. Wang Wei, the poet who wrote the stele, the bei that we found last week in my tales of the Shaolin monks from Zhongnan Shan. Wang Wei had an interesting poem, Zhongnan Bie Ye. Now I translated this as his, as the Buddhist technical term, Bie Ye, specific karma, as opposed to Zhong Ye, collective karma, right? So I translated, watching my karma unfold from Zhongnan Mountain. People might argue that that's not the right translation. Wang Wei, wonderful poet, 400, left behind 400 poets. 终岁颇浩道，晚家南山吹。醒来没独望，盛世空自知。醒到水中处，坐看云起时。偶然直拎骚，谈笑无别期。骚是吗 ，Cliff？ So, lean so. In midlife, I turned to the Buddhist path. But now as I aged, I decided to move here among the southern mountains. And it's Zhongnan, the southern mountains of Zhongnan Shan. On a solitary stroll, as I admire the scenic beauty, the myriad affairs vanished from my memory. Reaching the source of a bubbling spring, I sat to watch while the clouds emerged. Coming back, I ran into an old mountain man. We talked and laughed. There was no longer any hurry to leave. So Wang Wei, the minister, poet, Buddhist, says as he got old, he moved to Zhongnan Shan. He left the affairs of the world, running the government, became a real Buddhist. And what he likes to do, I made this very personal in my translation of it, that it's I'm out on a solitary stroll looking at the beauty, and things just bit by bit kind of melted away amid the clouds and the mist. And I went to where, now some people say this is where the stream dries up, but I don't think so. I think I go to the source of the spring and sit down there and watch nature happen. Watch while the clouds emerge there on the mountainside. And then time to come home, and he ran into a neighbor, this old hermit, mountain guy. And sure enough, they fell into a conversation about the weather, about the mind, and who's in a hurry? What's the rush? So this is, a story about someone who has put it down, 看破放下, right? And his karma is unfolding from Zhongnan Mountain. So I'm going to tell another story from a mountain. And this is, I told the story not that long ago here, but it's worth telling again because it's one of my best stories, my own experiences. And it's a magic story, and I won't apologize for the magic. It's just magical. But in 1989, Master Mingyang, the head of the Buddhist Association, along with, at the time, he was the Sangha head. They divided into lay and Sangha at the time. In Shanghai, invited myself and some other monks to tour the 4 holy mountains, Sidaminngshan in China. In China, there are these 4 mountains, each one related to a bodhisattva, that are said to be the mountains. These are the ones where the energy is. There are Taoist mountains, and there's smaller mountains. Zhongnan is one of the smaller mountains. So we went to Putoshan, we went to Jiuhua Shan, and we went to Emei Shan, and we went to Wutai Shan, these 4 mountains. So when we went to Jiuhua, 9 flowers, this is the mountain devoted to Earth Treasury Bodhisattva, Dizang-pusa. We had been told by Shifu, by Master Hua, maybe you can find some old cultivators, some real cultivators, Xu Xingren. And it was said that in Jiuhua Shan, in the back of the mountain, there were men and women cultivating who had not been touched by the Cultural Revolution, who just hid away, who really kept their practices going. And we wanted to meet them. We wanted to find out if they were really there. It's our one chance to really connect with the hermits of China. Kind of like Ted Berger's film, Amongst White Clouds, or like Bill Porter's book, in the mid-white clouds, and the finding the hermits of the Chinese mountains. Okay, so our minder, someone who was there to keep track of us, told our Chinese Sangha counterpart, who was our young monks who were staying with us every day, to keep us at the temple. Don't go out, he said. And then he went off to play. And we talked to our young monk friend, who was our guide from Shanghai. And we said, boy, we really, really would like to know. You suppose there are any Xuanzang Xuxingren, real cultivators here? He said, I don't know. I've been interested myself. I'd love to find out. And so we said, well, what do you suppose? What's his name has gone off. He won't know. Can we go take a look and come back? He said, why not? So we were at the peak called Jinding, the gold peak of Jiuhua Shan. And it was hard to get up there. It's a long, long hike. It's real mountains. I mean, Chinese, your imagination of Chinese mountains, this is it. So we, after lunch, went out, walked. It's Ho Shan. We're going in the back and little trails, and didn't see anything, didn't hear anything. It's the mountain peak, it's the top, it's over the ridge, down, wandering. And then we're getting kind of late, we better go back, but I smelled wood smoke. There was a wood fire and smelled it to the right. And there was a little path. And I went down the path there were 4 of us, and 3 from the US and our 1 monk guide. And sure enough, here was a man wearing he didn't have his precept sash, but he had a multi-patched gray monk's robe on, and his head was shaved, but not really. He had a lot of stubble. He wasn't city style. He was rough working style monk. And he had a smile on his face. He said, oh, you've come. Well, come on. He said, come on. We're like, oh, do we dare? What is this? And the trail led in, and there was an opening. There was a clearing, and there were 2 buildings. One was just a shack that had shelter, but there was a Buddha altar in there. And then the other one was kind of a utility building with a lean-to and canvas tarps and stuff. And it was like a hut with a garden. You could see that. And he said, you wanna, here, go bow. Go bow. So he saw that we were Buddhists, right? So we went into his hut, and here was a Buddha altar, and on the altar was a picture of Master Xuanhua. There was an image of Shifu Shangren, our teacher, on this mysterious hut on the top of Zhongnan on Jiuhua Mountain. And so we bow, and he says, you're from city of 10,000 Buddhas, huh? We're like, he says, what are you? And we're like, yeah, we are. Yeah, we're Americans. He says, I know. You know. He says, yeah. He says, glad you made it. And then this other guy comes out from behind the shed, and he says, oh, pay no attention to him. He doesn't talk. Don't, 不要惹他, 不要理他. Don't pay attention to him. It's like, okay. And his companion had a weathered face. His companion's face, the skin of his face was sunburned, nearly black. They're both Chinese, and the other one was really tall, kind of scary looking. And we said, okay, no worries. And he says, come on over here, take a look. He says, what's this? And he points down at the ground, and it's under a shading tarp. And we're like, herbs? Herbs? He says, yeah. He says, that's ginseng. And he points to our Chinese young monk companion. He says, where are you from? Dongbei. He says, you don't recognize ginseng? You city kids, he says. So he's growing ginseng out here. And ginseng, we didn't know it could grow in Jiuhua Shan, but here it was. And so he says, all right. He says, now we have 我们有缘. Says we have affinities. You got to get out of here. Time for you to go. And he says, I got a question for you. He says, when I was, before you go, he says, tell me, he says, when I was flying by, I saw the city, and the city has these big streets, bigger than anything in Beijing. And he says, and it's got this thing, it's really tall. It's like a tower shaped like this. And it's got a big arch, over the city streets. What city is that? And we're like, Paris, France? He says, oh yeah, I think that's right. I didn't understand a word they were saying. Yeah, I flew by, I saw him. I always wondered where that place was. Okay, get out of here. He said, don't tell anybody you met us. So we go down the path and turned around, and it was like clouds, nothing, no. And we're going, did any of that really happen? And so we walked back, and it was one of the strangest encounters. And we got back over the ridge and down to Jinding, and there was our Shanghai minder, arms crossed, tapping his foot. You're in trouble, he said to the monk. So, my goodness. But never forgotten that. And the monk who knew that we were from City of 10,000 Buddhas and had a picture of Shifu on his altar. And he, none of the encounter was, he didn't give us any Chan talk, Chanji, no Chan banter to test our enlightenment. He was just having fun. And so we did, in fact, find some Lao Xiuxing, some cultivators on Zhongnan Shan, on Jiuhua Shan. I keep saying Zhongnan Shan. But it was not an encounter I could have imagined in any. Yeah. All right. The plan is next week, finish the 10 stages. And we're going to remark again on how the Avatamsaka Sutra is a moral text. The things that Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva points out about each of the stages is not power, it's not enlightenment, it's internal qualities of virtue, of the nature. That's what he wants all the Bodhisattvas to understand, that even if you start out as a Vipassana meditator, if you start out as a Zen guy, if you start out with the Pure Land, reciting the Buddha's name and devotion, the deeper you go, everything turns on qualities of your heart, your character. That's the ultimate end of the Bodhisattva path, is, and it's the path itself is walked through transforming selfishness and greed, contention, seeking, being unable to share, and integrity. Those 6 guidelines pop up as the qualities that Bodhisattvas display. Totally unexpected in my approach to Buddhism. What did I know? So that's what we're going to find. Then, after that, we're going to survey all 10 stages, look at the qualities, remind ourselves of what we've learned, kind of do a kind of review. And then I want to do something that I haven't ever done before, which is read, starting with the first stage, we'll see how it goes. Read the first stage, the stage of happiness, as literature with everyone. Read it through in English so that we can hear the development of the ideas, so that we can appreciate the flow of the text. I don't know if anybody has ever emphasized the qualities of the Avatamsaka Sutra in English as literature. That is to say, as a body of text that we recite it through, but it's not meant to be appreciated. It's meant to get through as a kind of a text as mantra, text as power object, sort of as sacred object. But to be able to listen to the language of the Flower Garland Sutra, I haven't done that before. So I'm going to take a week or however long to go through that first stage, both the text and the verses, and invite you all to join. And let's see what comes. I think it's going to be spectacular. I think it's going to be a whole revelation to hear the text, not line by line investigating, but flowing through with the idea that this is Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva with the Buddha's energy behind him, giving us instructions about how Bodhisattvas behave. That's what I had in mind. Hope you think that's something you want to do, and you're welcome to join. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask the monks of the Berkeley Monastery to tell us what is going on and give us some news if there is any. What's happening? Jinchuan, Jinwei Shi?
It's Jinwei. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Jinwei Shi.
Yes, Amitabha. We have a few changes. The first, since I think a week ago, we changed our time for morning ceremony. So now, every day at 4 a.m., we start our morning ceremony until 5 a.m. And after a few kind of considerations and reflections, we decided to continue our morning Dharma reflections and follow 3 steps, 1 bow. It's starting 7:15. We read the bowing journals and letters from the 3 steps, 1 bow pilgrimage and Barav Heng Shur and their master Heng Chao from Marty Verhoeven. And 7:30 we do 3 steps, 1 bow, and this happened every day as well. And we follow our daily schedule, and you can find all the information on our website. Also, we have upcoming Ulambana ceremony. It's August 28th, Saturday, from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. Will be online again, same like a year ago. You can find the link and join if you wish. And same day, we also will start our Amitabha session. It will be 7 days recitation of Amitabha's name. Start with 8:30 a.m. with transmission of 8 a.m. We start with transmission of 8 precepts, and we recite Buddha's name, Amitabha Sutra, and you can be with us every day, morning and afternoon, until Friday, September 3rd. So this is, I think, the two. We have a blood drive this coming Tuesday, but all the slots are already booked. So we have full attendance. So maybe next time, if you wish, next year will be opportunity definitely to support our local Red Cross with our interfaith group. So this is it.
One more thing, for the Amitabha session, you can set up a plaque, a pai wei, if you choose to. You can set up 2, and there's information here about doing that. That's one of the, for people who know Fa Hui, Dharma assemblies, that's one of the things that people love to do, is they put up a memorial plaque on behalf of a relative or a friend and use that as kind of a lens to focus the merit and virtue. So we've learned how to do that online too, and people can fill in the form, and then at the end of the week, the monks transform the pai weis, and the merit goes to those who you dedicated. All right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jinwei Shi. Amitofo.
Amitofo.
That's the news. And here we are at Gold Coast Dharma Realm. We've left quarantine today. Let's see, it is now 2 o'clock. In 2 hours, our lockdown ends. So Gold Coast will be allowed to circulate and do commerce again. Let's see here. Meanwhile, the coronavirus, particularly the Delta variant, is stronger than ever. So we want to transfer the merit from today's lecture or whatever goodness you have done with this melody and with this mantra from Medicine Buddha, and be happy that Buddhists have special power tool to do that. How many folks today on the Chinese channel? 70? Okay, and Jerry will tell us how many on our chat. 108 here, and okay, here we go. Satya Guru Aidurya Prabharajaya Tathagatāya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Asaji Asaji Asaja Samukate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Asaja Aidurya Prabharajaya Tathagatāya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Asaji Asaji Asaja Samukate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Asaja Guru Aidurya Prabharajaya Tathagatāya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om. Last chance, here we go. Asaji Asaji Asaja Samukate Swaha. Something wonderful about that mantra. Okay, I've got my bell here and I'll ring it 3 times and we can bow to the Buddhas 3 times. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. And then I have a lovely photo of Master Hua from Buddhist Lecture Hall in Hong Kong. You can bow 3 times to Sherpa. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, that's it today from Gold Coast. See you all next week. Amitofo. Bye-bye.